What's the most ridiculous thing you got in trouble for at school? So I took this blow-off class with my best friend in high school. It was called Personal and Family Development, so you can get an idea of the difficulty level of the course. I had enough credits to graduate but still had to have a full schedule. We spent most of the time in amazement at how dumb our classmates were. My friend literally had to bust out a calculator to prove to a girl that 4/5 was the same as 80%. Anyway, one day our assignment was to draw a healthy, balanced meal onto these paper plates she gave us, with a giant box of random, mostly broken crayons markers as our tools. As usual, we quickly did it and I brought mine up to my teacher on the other side of the room. I was being a smartass and had drawn a silly meal, steak, toast, pineapple, with my left hand, complete with backwards letter E's. She took one look at it, yelled "Your steak looks too much like your toast" and failed me. All I remember was my friend erupting in laughter from the other side of the room. This is the only one that made me laugh. My Algebra 2 teacher my senior year of high school was a psycho. I wasn't the best kid ever, kind of a complete butthole to teachers I didn't like, but it was my last year of school and I didn't want to frick it up. I lost a considerable amount of weight the summer before my senior year, so my pants were a bit loose. The first day of class, she accuses me of sagging and sends me to the office. I knew it was going to be bad when I returned to class and she had a video camera, I crap you not, on a tripod aimed at my desk. She told me that she had heard about how bad I was and was going to make sure she could teach instead of having to watch me all the time. Every day I would hold a piece of paper up to the camera which read "The Punkajuice 03 Show, starring," and my friends would wave at the camera one by one. It was really surreal. Anyway, I was always quiet and tame in her class, but the camera ended up serving me as one day after I finished my work, I set my head down for the remainder of class. Suddenly, a girl who nobody would ever describe as likable screams "Punkajuice 03" hit me in the head with a piece of paper. Psycho B teacher turns around red in the face screaming, "This is it. You are in so much trouble. I'm writing you up right now. You're going to in-school suspension for the rest of the year." "Oh, contra," I argued. "Let's review the tape." She refused and continued her tirade as I left the office. After telling the principal the story and having my parents called in, she had to admit in front of the four of us that she A. brought her personal video camera from home to tape me every day without any consent from myself or my parents or the school. B. couldn't review the tape to show my innocence because she never actually put a tape in the fricking thing. I got everybody in the class to testify I was sleeping. The teacher got in a frick ton of trouble. From what I understand, she was asked to leave after that semester, and my parents were extremely pissed as you can imagine. But really I was most bummed because my show and all of my clever cartoons and jokes I worked so hard getting ready for the camera were never recorded. Kinda like a bizarro Truman Show. In college I had an electronics class with a lab component. The lab manual was a Word document and contained all of the necessary charts and forms to fill out to document each week's project. I did the project, filled out the data tables, and submitted my lab report, also as a Word document. I was called into the department chair's office for plagiarism because I had included the tables that I had filled out with my results in my report. You know, the experiment data. I put it in the lab report, where that kind of thing typically goes. I'd taken plenty of science classes before with lab reports, and if you were given a form to fill out, you filled it out and included it. This class never specified anything beyond turn the report in. All of the class materials were being reused from a prior instructor who no longer had anything to do with the course. So the current instructors couldn't even answer questions on how they had intended for students to submit it. I'm still not sure if they expected us to read all the data tables within Word or what. I couldn't even get a straight answer on that. The labs were being graded by a set of TAs with extremely limited English skills, and they saw the chart and reported it because it was identical to the blank one in the manual, aside from the data I'd filled in. And at no point did anyone in the department think, "Hey, this is pretty freaking stupid." I got a condescending lecture that completely ignored the facts of the incident and was threatened with expulsion. That incident was one of several that led to me walking away from that department and that university. I just wish I had done it sooner. In 7th grade I was joking around with a not so bright friend of mine and dared him to stick his finger in the electrical socket. Sucker actually tried doing it and I got yelled at for having poor judgment in friend making. I gave a kid a rubber band on the bus who then shot people with it. He did not get in trouble, but apparently I was a high-class weapons dealer. I got in trouble for taking a glue dot off the wall in gym class that was used about 4 months prior to hang up a poster for Christmas. In 8th grade my butthole of a best friend pantsed me in history class. I was called down to the office the next day to explain what happened and I was given a choice to pick his punishment. Well, since he was my best friend and I knew from the amount of sucking up to me he learned his lesson. So I checked the box next to a phone call home or a written warning that should be signed by the parent. The B of a dean then freaking scolded me and gave me a 20-minute lecture about how it's not okay to let your friend off. B lived 2 streets down from me and about 20 other kids from my school. Her house was never cleaned from the amount of eggshell and toilet paper we threw. My odd middle school only had 7th and 8th grade and the 7th grade on the lower level was separated into 3 teams in 2 hallways connected in the middle like the letter H. Teams Alliance and Bullshit Feel Good Name were in one wing since they were smaller while Author Bullshit Feel Good Name was the largest and had their own hallway. In the morning it was customary for all the kids to hang out for 20 minutes before school officially started. Now, Team Alliance and Bullshit Feel Good Name would normally walk into Author Bullshit Feel Good Name's hallway since they had the most people and held the majority of our friends. But apparently that team's teachers along with our dean decided that if we wanted to all hang out then we could do it at lunch, so we were banned from entering that hallway until school started. This did not please any of us. We would rush the hallway in about a pack of 10-15 kids so that way the bitchy teacher couldn't catch all of us and would never actually write us up but just send us back. TL. DR. We weren't allowed to walk into a goddamn hallway to meet with our friends. This same school also bans hats, sunglasses, large coats, requires kids to wear their lanyard, and is also trying to ban skinny jeans, sweatshirts, and yoga pants, according to a former teacher of mine that I still occasionally talk to. Just because people feel it's inappropriate to be wearing yoga pants, it's harmful to wear skinny jeans because it can cut off circulation, and that people can smuggle in a gun or drugs in a sweatshirt. This is a public school. Absolutely nothing. Really, nothing. We used to have these end of the month activities that our junior high would let us do. It would be on the last Friday of the month and they would have a dance or a free lunch party in the cafeteria. But people that would get in trouble would get time off of end of the month activity and have to sit in detention for a period of time based on what they did or how often they did it. Apparently they got my name mixed up with someone else, not even the same first name, and I had to sit in for the entire activity. I told my parents and my mom ended up calling and asking for some sort of explanation as to why I got the detention. They then realized the mix up and my principal literally said to her, "Oh, I'm so sorry. The next time he gets in trouble he will get out of detention then." I had never had a detention before or after that even either. Not only that, had I been a shithead at that age that would have basically given me free reign to do some stupid crap and get out of it. Then again, this was a poor district with a highly unqualified principal. When I was in middle school, I got fricked over in the most WTF fashion imaginable. I was in 7th grade, I going through puberty along with every other guy in my grade. Our lunch conversations every day would be filled with nothing but swapping dirty jokes and good pee sites we had found. Well, I had overheard a particularly raunchy joke from my uncle and decided to share it with the guys. They all thought it was hilarious, but obviously some didn't really get it and just laughed along with the rest of us. Well, after lunch we all go back to class and are doing our worksheets or whatever, and my friend is chatting it up with our MILF of a teacher. He obviously had a crush on her and was trying to be funny, when I heard him say, "Hey, I heard a funny joke today. Do you want to hear it?" The second those words came out of his mouth I knew the inevitable shitstorm that was about to blow in was going to be at least a class 5. Mrs. MILF says, "Sure, I love jokes." Then with the crap-eating grin of a kid who has no idea what he is saying states proudly, "Can I kiss your lips and work up to your belly button?" The room got dead quiet and the teacher turned the deepest shade of red I have ever seen and quickly walked out of the room. When she left we told the kid what that joke actually meant and the realization of what he had done made him equal her hue of red. A few minutes later the teacher returned with a male teacher who pulled the kid out of class. We all laughed at how busted he was, but when he came back a few minutes later, I got called to the principal's office. When I got there, the principal told me that I was in major trouble for spreading inappropriate jokes. I explained that I told the joke to a lunch table of 6 guys and that I would never actually tell that to a teacher, but the principal put all the blame squarely on me. I was too young to understand it at the time, but it was obviously because he knew he couldn't punish the kid for telling a joke that he didn't understand. Since I was the one who started it, I was the scapegoat and ended up with 5 days of out of school suspension. TLDR. Told a dirty joke to a group of guys and got 5 days OS. Bastard ratted you out. When I first moved to my new town, I was entering 7th grade at this time. My mother wanted to send me to a Catholic school. I identified as an atheist then, mostly due to what my father taught me, and so on my school form I put that down. On the second day of school, I asked to sit in the back of the church during mass because I didn't want to participate due to my lack of faith. They made me do so anyways. I was then gone from school for a week, and during this time, because they knew I was an atheist and therefore didn't like me, they went through all my crap. They found a list of people who died in a story I had been writing. They put the list of names through their school computer and found none of them matched students in their school system, nor students in the public school system. Regardless of this fact, the day I went back to school, a cop showed up to take me to the police station for interrogation. My parents were shocked and pissed off. I was read my rights at the station and the police officer and juvenile officer were basically like, frick this, it's a list of fictional characters. After about 20 minutes of questioning and after seeing the rough draft of what I had been working on at the time, needless to say, I didn't go back to Catholic school. Gotta love that zero tolerance pause. By that logic, 99% of literature ever produced would be inadmissible in schools, because it involves someone dying. I rage so hard every time I hear stories like these. Strangely, in my entire high school career I was never actually sent to the office, although plenty of teachers were complete dongs to me. I do, however, have witnessed a few incidents. The first one was in 7th grade math class when 3 Korean girls were kicked out of class for talking in Korean. That teacher was a B. The second time was in 8th grade math class. Frick math, man. My friend Paul was sitting quietly at his desk, as he always does, really quiet guy, listening to our teacher go on and on about factoring. Out of nowhere, the teacher yells, "Paul, do you think this is funny?" Paul looked startled and offended, but barely got out so much as a want before. "Get out of my class now." TLDR. Butthole teachers. Why is it always math? Wearing a tank top with shoulder straps less than 1 inch wide. Apparently, tank tops were fine to wear, but not if the straps were less than 1 inch wide. The rule had nothing to do with how low cut the shirts could be in the chest area, nor how high cut they might be in the midriff area. So it was perfectly fine apparently for the girl with huge T to have them half bursting out of her tank top. But the extra centimeter of shoulder that I was showing by not adhering to the 1 inch thick strap rule made my adornings obscene. I found there to be so little sense to this rule that I refused to pay it any mind and was repeatedly sent to the principal's office, where I would state my case adamantly about how completely nonsensical the policy was. It was perfectly fine apparently for the girl with huge T to have them half bursting out of her tank top. Fine by me. In grade 4 or 5 I got called into the principal's office along with a friend of mine. We were both good kids who were rarely, if ever, in trouble. Neither of us had an idea why were we being called in either. When we got there was a girl sitting there that we knew from class and lived in the same apartment complex as us. Turns out, we were getting a talking to for getting a snowball fight. Makes sense, right? Throwing snowballs at a poor girl who had no snow of her own, or something. Hold on though, this snowball fight had taken place, not only the day before, but at home. At home. What? I can't do my own crap on my own time. Hated that principal. What a bee. My principal once made me break up with my girlfriend of a year in his office because people said we had kissed at the movies. I was so I egged his cherry red Corvette, and he came to school the next day crying. This was in middle school. I was expelled from high school for writing in my blog, So and so broke my new Gorillaz CD. I swear to God I'm gonna kill him. Cops showed up at my house and took me in for questioning the day after I posted it. Everybody who was ever mentioned in my blog was evacuated from the school. The principal wouldn't believe me or the guy I was talking about when we both said that it was just a figure of speech, and that was the end of that. However, I threatened to bring this to the newspapers. I was almost valedictorian, captain of the dance team and president of the culture club, so it would have sent up a red flag somewhere. So the principal sent me to post-secondary education, free college during your senior year, to cover up the fact that I was expelled. Turns out that this teacher really hated me and always tried to get me into trouble with the administration. This 60-year-old woman apparently read my blog weekly to try and find out what illegal things I could be doing, and she called the cops on me. The entire 5th grade took a trip to the county transit headquarters. This was the field trip that everyone looked forward to. You seriously heard about this field trip in 2nd grade? That's how big it was. The best part of the whole trip is when they let you pile into a bus that's in the garage, and they'd lift the bus up on the hydraulic jack with you in it, 10+ feet in the air. My best friend Jeremy and I were standing off to the side, next to a chain link rope cordoning off the stairs to the gas tanks below. I mentioned to him, "Can you imagine if we lit a match and threw it down towards the gas tanks immediately?" One of the teachers came over and scolded us for cussing. Jeremy and I had no idea what she was talking about, but apparently it sounded like buttocks in the noisy garage. What was the punishment? We didn't get to go in that freaking bus. The whole field trip always boiled down to getting on that bus. Everything else was moot compared to that. Frick you, Ms. Johnston. I was in high school in the mid-90s, and I began ditching gym class because my teacher was an butthole. In class a student was getting picked on. He was always getting picked on by the quintessential jock butthole. After a few minutes of the jock kicking the legs of the other kid, jock boy spat in his face. Blind P, I scream out at the jock prick, and the teacher hears me, then proceeds to send the other bullied kid to the corner of the gym to sit and think. Rest of the class has to run laps. I run up to the kid in the corner to tell him not to worry about these buttholes, when I hear the teacher yell out, "Get away from it." I walked out of gym and decided to never go back. After a week of ditching, I was told that I had in-school suspension for a week or so. That day after school, I was talking to a few people who were 1 year behind me. One girl told me that her friend, another girl, had been in the auditorium with 3 guys for 20 minutes. She said she was worried. I go in the auditorium and it is dark, with the exception of the band pit. I run to the band pit while yelling something and see the guys running out pulling up their pants. To this day I am not sure why. I just left after that. About a week later my dean pulls me from a class telling me that I had to go see the principal. She says, "Any idea why?" I said because I ditched gym and ditched in school. She told me that would have been for her to deal with, not the principal. So we walk from one building to the next, neither knowing WTH is going on. Get to the principal's office and I see the friend of the girl who asked for help. Get into the actual office and see 2 cops. Frick me, I still do not know what I did. The cops and principal wanted to know what happened that day after school. I tell them. They commend me, saying that I stopped a debauchery. They call my dad, who I had not spoken to in months, and tell him I was a hero. I feel great. Next day the principal says, instead of suspension, she will allow me to serve my now 2 weeks of in school. I was to report directly to my guidance counselor. I went to him and said that I would not serve that time, and that was the end of high school for me. TLDR. In high school I stopped a debauchery and was told that I still needed to serve in school suspension for a class I ditched because the teacher was a bully. When I was a freshman in high school, I was put in an advanced math class which I had no interest in at all. So during the final I blew through the 100+ question test in about 5 minutes. All my buddies were taking the test still, so I got very bored. For some stupid reason I wrote on a paper "Jesus loves you," and I was quietly showing it to people in the class. The teacher, Mr. Sendry, noticed. He was very known for writing referrals. So of course he wrote me up for it. The referral said something like he was continuously distracting the class during the final exam with holding up signs saying Jesus loves you. I'm pretty sure there was more to it, but by the time he finished writing the referral the class period was almost over. So I just walked around the campus for the remainder of the period finding people I knew showing off my referral. Back in high school in 2000 I hacked the school's network. I just put random text file notes on all the computer desktops. The reason I got caught was I was running a software company and the faculty knew me as that software kid. So they pulled me aside knowing I was probably the only one that had the capacity to do it. I don't condone hacking. It was more of a rebellious exploration thing kids do. Also in high school, me and my 2 friends would buy gummy bears from the vending machine, suck on them for a few seconds then fling them up onto the gymnasium ceiling during PE. They would stick like glue. There was this spotted rainbow pattern all over the ceiling. At the end of the year the janitor was up there on a scissor lift scraping about 150 bags of gummy bears and gummy worms off. I feel bad now, but laughed at the time. Kids are mean. I never got in trouble for that one, just wanted to share it. And there was this one time in middle school where I was pulled into the office at random and accused of putting pictures of my dong in girls' lockers. Police were called, and the principal even asked if I had a mole down there, which I don't. I was stuck in the office for the entire day being harassed and interrogated as if I was a murder suspect. Ends up some other kid did it. I never got an apology from the school, and I probably should have sued because they had no reason to accuse me other than some kid saying it was probably Nick. He's the school jokester. I know the feeling. Anytime anything bad happened with computers in public school, I got blamed. Fortunately, the IT staff at my HS were familiar with me and realized when it wasn't my fault, so I was in the clear there, though I did do a bit of poking around. I never screwed with anything. I'll invert the question with something I did that was really stupid and dangerous, and didn't really get in trouble for even though someone got hurt. In grade 8, maybe 9, I was being a prick to this girl sitting behind me in science class. The textbook had a hand graphic on it and I was poking between the fingers with a math compass like that prank Bishop plays on Hudson in Aliens. Anyways, the girl got pee off and told me to stop, so, being a shithead, I took one last final stab. Of course, she reached for the book at the exact same time and I managed to stab her right in the middle of the hand with the compass. There was blood everywhere. Fortunately I did no permanent damage. I was so upset at what I'd done, and embarrassed by my own stupidity, that I really received nothing by way of punishment. Seriously, I wasn't suspended or given detention or anything. Recently, the girl and I reconnected on Facebook and while the incident has yet to come up, my memory of it was revived. I'm still mightily embarrassed by the whole thing. As for dumb crap I got in trouble for, in 3rd grade a teacher stood on my desk and cracked the top. Because I laughed she gave me detention. She was a jerk. Apologize to her. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.